Imagine this. You've lived your whole life in a quiet village surrounded by a dark, forbidden forest, where creatures with razor-sharp claws are said to roam. Step beyond the boundary, and you might never come back. But when tragedy strikes, one villager dares to break the rules, only to uncover a truth far more terrifying than the monsters in the woods. Hey everyone, welcome back to Real Screen, where we uncover the most intense and mind-bending movies, one story at a time. Today, we're diving into The Village, a chilling mystery thriller from 2004 where nothing is quite as it seems. In a 19th century community bound by fear, the people live under strict rules to avoid the creatures in the surrounding forest. But when a desperate journey for medicine begins, dark secrets hidden by the village elders start to unravel. Is the real danger lurking in the forest or inside the village itself? Let's break down The Village, step by step. And if you're new here, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a recap. So let's start talking about The Village. The movie begins in a village in Pennsylvania, set in the 19th century, with a scene of a funeral. Later, while the villagers are gathered for a meal, they hear a strange noise coming from the woods surrounding the village. At that moment, Noah Percy stands up, clapping his hands and laughing. Once the funeral ends, the villagers return to their daily activities. The village is surrounded by a vast forest, and at night, the villagers light torches around the perimeter to protect the boundary. A guard is stationed in a tower to keep watch. The following morning, a group of children discover a dead animal, its skin stripped off. Edward Walker approaches them and asks if they know who did it, but the children deny any involvement. Later, as Edward teaches the children, he asks about the animal and they tell him it was killed by the creatures living in the woods, monsters with long claws that feed on meat. Edward then explains that no one has ventured beyond the village boundaries in years, as crossing into the forest could bring harm from the creatures. The next morning, Lucius Hunt meets with the village elders, who are responsible for making decisions for the community. He asks them for permission to venture into the forbidden forest, cross it, and reach the nearest town to gather medicine. However, the elders refuse his request. That night, Lucius's mother Alice Hunt asks him about the proposal he made to the elders earlier in the day. Lucius doesn't respond, and later, he spends the night in the watchtower with his friend Finton. The following morning, the villagers are alarmed once again when they discover another animal has been killed, its skin stripped off. They report the incident to the elders, who assure them it could be the work of a rabid wolf or coyote. Since no one has crossed the village boundary, it's not the creatures from the woods. Calmed by this explanation, the villagers go about their day. Later, Edward's daughter, Kitty Walker, tells her father that she is in love with Lucius and asks for his permission to tell Lucius how she feels. Edward gives his blessing. Kitty then confesses her love to Lucius and asks him to marry her. But Lucius declines, leaving Kitty heartbroken and in tears when she returns home. That night, Jameson and a group of boys hear strange noises coming from the woods while standing near the village boundary, and they run back to the village in fear. The next morning, Noah and blind Ivy Walker run a race to the hill where Lucius is also present. Ivy tells Lucius that her sister cried the previous night. She then makes a remark about how she's able to see him, suggesting that some people emit faint colors, and Lucius's color is very bright. As they continue talking, Noah returns to give Ivy a handful of red berries, which makes her happy. However, Lucius warns that the berries are of an unlucky color. Ivy responds by saying that things of that color attract the creatures in the woods, so they should not keep the berries. Lucius then asks Noah where he found the berries, and Noah leads him to the spot. Lucius later tells the elders that Noah had picked the berries from within the forbidden forest and had entered the woods on several occasions, yet remained unharmed because of his innocence, as the creatures did not attack him. Lucius pleads for permission to travel to the nearest town, but the elders once again refuse. That night, Alice tells Lucius that his father disappeared once when he went to the market. He was found 2 days later near a river, stripped of his clothes after being robbed. She explains that this is why they don't go to the towns. Lucius then suggests that there are secrets hidden in every corner of the village, pointing to a black box locked in their house. Alice explains that the box contains reminders of her troubled past. As Lucius moves to open it, Alice stops him, telling him not to. The next morning, Lucius and a group of villagers dressed in yellow cloaks are marking the boundary posts with yellow paint. While doing so, Lucius steps beyond the village boundary into the forest and picks a handful of red berries from a tree. As he does, he spots a creature moving in the distance. but he remains calm and quietly returns to the village. That night, while Ivy is playing with Noah, Lucius takes her home. On the way, Ivy tells Lucius that her sister Kitty has decided to marry Christopher Crane, so now she is free to marry anyone she chooses. Later that night, Finton is keeping watch from the tower when he sees a creature dressed in red walking below. Terrified, he sounds the alarm and the villagers rush into their homes to hide. Ivy, however, stands outside waiting for Lucius to arrive. As one of the creatures approaches her, Lucius reaches Ivy, grabs her hand, and quickly leads her into the house, locking the door behind them. They hide with the others in the basement until the danger passes. The next morning, the villagers gather and discuss the red marks that have been left on their doors by the creatures. Lucius apologizes to everyone, saying that it was his fault the creatures came to the village because he had crossed the boundary into the forest the day before. Despite the tension, the villagers gather for Kitty's wedding and celebrate with joy. However, during the festivities, the sound of children screaming interrupts the celebration. Edward, Ivy's father and the village leader, questions the children, and they claim the creatures have entered the village once again. The villagers search the area and discover that all the livestock have been killed, their skins stripped off. To their horror, one of the animals is hanging in front of Lucius's house. Alice later tells Edward that the way the skin was hung above the door clearly shows that this was not the work of a wolf or a coyote. That night, Ivy suddenly awakens and walks outside, sensing that Lucius is there. As they stand together outside the house, Lucius confesses his love for Ivy, and the two share a kiss. The next morning, when one of the villagers asks Alice if it's true that Ivy and Lucius are in a relationship, Alice confirms that it is. Later, Ivy talks to her sister Kitty about her relationship with Lucius and asks if Kitty is okay with it. Kitty tells her she has no problem with it and gives her blessing. However, when Noah finds out about Ivy and Lucius's relationship, he is heartbroken. Overcome with jealousy, Noah visits Lucius at his home. While talking, Noah suddenly stabs Lucius with a knife he had hidden with him. When the villagers realize someone has been attacked, they begin searching for answers. Ivy, upon hearing the news, rushes to Lucius's house. As she enters, she stumbles upon Lucius lying on the ground and immediately understands that it was Noah who attacked him. Filled with rage, Ivy goes to the room where Noah is being held and beats him severely. Afterward, Ivy begs her father Edward to let her travel through the forest to the nearby town to get the medicine needed to save Lucius's life. Edward agrees, as there is no other way to help Lucius. Edward then tells Ivy that her grandfather died in his sleep when a man shot him in the head with a gun. After this, Edward takes Ivy to a shed at the edge of the village that no one uses anymore. He instructs her not to be afraid of what she will see there and reveals some secrets. Meanwhile, Ivy begins preparing for her journey to the town, while Edward informs the other village elders of her plan. Ivy sets off into the forest to reach the town, accompanied by Finton and Christopher, two young men from the village. All three are dressed in yellow cloaks. However, as they enter the forest, Christopher becomes scared and decides to turn back to the village. Ivy tries to reassure him by saying that they carry magic stones that will protect them from the creatures in the woods. Despite this, Christopher refuses to continue and heads back, leaving only Ivy and Finton to proceed. After walking some distance into the forest, Finton becomes scared and apologizes to Ivy before deciding to leave her behind and return to the village. Ivy, now alone, throws down the so-called magic stones she was carrying. At this point, the scene flashes back to what happened earlier near the shed. Edward had led Ivy inside and shown her something, but since Ivy is blind, she felt it with her hands. What she touched seemed to resemble the creatures from the forest, which frightened her. However, Edward reassured her that the creatures weren't real. He then revealed the truth. All of the strange events, including the mutilation of livestock and the frightening noises, were orchestrated by the village elders to keep the villagers from leaving the community and heading to the outside world. After confessing all this, Edward handed Ivy a note with the list of medicines Lucius needed and gave her directions for the journey. Later, Edward gathered the other village elders and explained the situation. Although they were initially reluctant, they eventually agreed with Edward's decision and allowed Ivy to make the journey to town. Ivy spends the night in the forest. She hears unsettling noises and is disturbed by the rain, so she covers her ears with her hands and hums to herself to block it out. By morning, she sets off again toward her destination. While walking, Ivy slips and falls into a pit, but manages to climb out. Exhausted, she rests near the roots of a fallen tree and wipes the mud from her yellow cloak before continuing on her way. As Ivy moves deeper into the forest, her walking stick breaks and she hears something approaching. Terrified, she starts running without her stick and soon comes to a clearing filled with red berry bushes. To her horror, she realizes there's a creature behind her, resembling the monsters from the stories told in the village. As she flees, the creature begins chasing her. In a desperate attempt to escape, Ivy runs back to the pit she had fallen into earlier. She positions herself near the edge, remembering its location from the fallen tree root. As the creature charges toward her, Ivy steps aside just in time, causing the creature to fall into the pit. At the same time, a scene is shown in Noah's cell, where it becomes clear that Noah has escaped through the window. His parents notice that he has taken with him the costume used to disguise as one of the monsters. The next scene reveals the creature that fell into the pit. It is Noah, wearing the monster costume. Tragically, Noah dies in the pit. Ivy continues on her journey and eventually finds the path that Edward described to her. As she moves forward quickly, she encounters a wall that encircles the entire forest. Meanwhile, Edward is shown opening a locked black box in his home. Inside the box are various photographs and newspaper clippings. These items reveal that Edward and the other elders chose to live in the forest in order to escape the violence and crimes, including murders, that had affected their families in the outside world. They created this isolated life to protect their loved ones and live peacefully. Ivy climbs over the wall and jumps down on the other side, where she encounters Kevin, a security guard. Kevin stops his vehicle and asks her where she's come from. She tells him she came from the forest and hands him the note with the list of medicine she needs. At first, Kevin thinks she's joking, but after seeing her serious demeanor, he decides to help. Kevin goes to his station, retrieves the necessary medicine, and returns to Ivy with a ladder to help her back over the wall. With the medicine in hand, Ivy heads back toward the village. Meanwhile, Jameson informs the elders gathered near Lucius that Ivy is returning with the medicine he needs. He adds that she was attacked by a creature in the forest, but killed it. At this news, Noah's parents begin to grieve quietly, overcome by sorrow. Edward then tells the other elders that if they explain Noah's death as being caused by the creatures in the forest, it will further discourage the villagers from venturing beyond the village's boundaries. All of the elders agree with this plan, except Noah's parents, who eventually also give their consent. In the final scene, Ivy arrives with the medicine by Lucius's side, and the story filled with mystery and unique twist comes to an end. And that's the story. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next movie breakdown. Got a favorite film you want us to cover next? Drop it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one on Real Screen.